So my name is Ellie Hess. I'm the Assistant Director of CCP here at Marion Technical College. I have Amanda City. She's also from Marion Tech. Holly Jacobson from Ohio State Marion. And Lewis is out at the table. He'll be in a little bit from Ohio State Marion. So we are just going to go through this state presentation. I'll try to get through it pretty quickly, and then we'll go over our individual program requirements for CCP between Marion Tech and OSU. So, I will note, this is a state presentation, so it is a lot of information. But if you have questions or you're, you kind of done out for a little bit and you need to come back to it, you can find this presentation on the state CCP website. You can look at it anytime. It's up there all the time. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And as people come in, they can just find some seats, maybe pull some in from. All right, so what is College Credit Plus? It is Ohio's dual credit program where you can earn high school and college credits at the same time. And you can enroll in college courses that adhere to the requirements of the college, but they can also meet your high school requirements. So to be eligible, you have to be in grades 7 through 12. You have to be an Ohio resident. You have to take an assessment exam to be determined eligible, and you can apply to any public college or participating private college in the state of Ohio. So if you are in Marion, Ohio, you could apply to Cincinnati if you really wanted to go for that online program. So you can choose from a variety of college level courses as determined by your placement results. You can earn credit, like I said, that satisfies both high school and college at the same time. So for example, say you're going to take a college history course, it could count as one of your high school history credits. So you're not taking two courses. You obviously have to successfully complete the course in order to earn the credit. You can take classes in the summer, fall, and spring semesters. And you can take courses at the high school, on the college campus, or online, depending on what that institution offers. So first you have to be college eligible. That's based on an assessment exam. So you've probably heard of the ACT, the AccuPlacer, ALEX. There's different exams, but each college will have a different exam requirement on what they require for CCP. So depending on where you're wanting to go, you'll want to check and see what test you need to take. The college will review your scores, and if you meet the scores automatically, you can be accepted. If you don't automatically meet the scores, depending on your exam score, if you have a 3.0 GPA, you may be accepted, or a letter of recommendation from your school counselor or principal. So step number 2 would be you need to apply. So you'll want to contact the college that you're interested in attending and do their application, and make sure you get all the paperwork and processes done for that. Ultimately, the college is going to have the final decision if you're accepted or not. After you've been accepted, then you can register for your courses. So you would get an academic advisor, no matter what institution you're attending, and you could register for courses with them. If your school offers CCP classes at the high school, you would meet with your school counselor to get registered for those. And then like we already said, CCP courses satisfy both high school and college graduation requirements. You'll want to work with your school counselor to make sure that you are meeting the requirements for graduation. Your CCP advisor at the college isn't necessarily going to know what you still need, so you want to make sure you're communicating with both areas. Okay, so what courses can you take? Like I said, you work with your advisor to know which courses you can take based on your assessment scores. So in CCP, the first 15 credit hours that you take have to be level 1 courses. And that means they have to be transferable courses, courses in IT, computer science, A&P, foreign language, part of a certificate, part of a pathway, or about study skills, or academic or career success. You can find each institution's level 1 courses by looking at their website. After you've completed the first 15 hours, you can then move to level 2 courses, which are other courses that maybe the college offers that weren't part of that level 1. But you can work with your advisor to find out what those are. You can't take private applied courses with one-on-one instruction, courses with high fees, study abroad, phys ed courses, pass-fail courses, remedial courses, or religious courses. Again, your CCP advisor is going to help you determine what those are, and they won't put you in something you shouldn't be taking. So your college credit plus grades earned in your college course is going to be the same grade that goes on your high school transcript. So that grade will be factored into your college GPA and your high school GPA. So if you're trying to keep a 4.0 in high school, you're going to make sure you're doing really well in your classes in college because it can affect that. If your school uses an advanced placement scale or a weighted grading scale, they would have to use that same scale for the CCP course. Like we've already said a couple times, they satisfy graduation requirements. You would still need to work with your school counselor to ensure that you're meeting any mandatory testing that may be required, or certain classes that are not offered through CCP for graduation requirements. Those still need to be done at your high school. And we talked about they can satisfy graduation requirements. Oh, I just said that, sorry. I didn't click, okay. One rule that a lot of CCP students run into is you can only enroll in 30 semester credit hours a year. So if you're starting in the summer, that's the first class of whatever year you're going into. So say you're a freshman, you're doing CCP. That summer class is the first class towards your freshman year. And that includes your high school classes too. So there's a little calculation you can do to figure out where you are with your credit hours. Your school counselor will help you track that. The maximum number of credit hours you can take over the life of the program is 120. That is nearly a bachelor's degree. So if you think about maybe you want to get a certificate, that's going to be around 30 credit hours, and an associate's degree is around 60. So it is very doable to obtain a certificate or an associate's degree if you really want to, but you do have to track those hours. If you go over on those hours, you have a couple of options. You can either drop the course, or you can pay for the entire course, including the tuition, books, fees, all that, at the college's standard tuition rate. So it's going to be a little more expensive than the CCP course because CCP courses are discounted versus the tuition that the college offers. So that's something to keep in mind. We do occasionally have students that want to take an additional class that puts them over, but maybe they're going to complete an associate's degree, so it's worth it in the end. So what are the differences between high school and college? First of all, tests. So in high school, your test can be given weekly or at the end of the chapter. In college, your test can be fewer in number, cover a lot more material. Some classes may just have a midterm and a final, and that would be your whole grade. Study time. In high school, you're required to work 1 to 3 hours per day on your homework. Who does that? Anybody study 1 to 3 hours? Nobody? Okay, wake up call right here. In college, the standard rule is 2 to 3 hours of homework for every hour spent in class. So that can be 3 to 5 hours per day. That is real. That is a real number. So if that's not something you're used to doing, that might be something you want to think about when you're registering for a college course. How much work is this going to take me outside of the classroom? Knowledge acquisition. So in high school, a lot of your information is provided in class. You don't have to really do a lot of outside research. In college, your coursework will generally require a lot more independent thinking, longer writing assignments, and out of class research. So you'll want to think about that when you're signing up. Grades. High school, you may have numerous quizzes, tests, and homework assignments. In college, you're going to have fewer tests and, if any, homework assignments to determine your final grade. Role of the parent. So in high school, parents are strong advocates working closely with teachers and counselors. In college, your student, even if they're 14 or if they're 18, they are covered by FERPA. So at the college, we cannot share information about the student unless they have a FERPA release on file. But we really want that student to be an independent thinker, an independent student. They need to advocate for themselves, they need to communicate for themselves. I will tell you, even if we have a FERPA release to release information to the parent, we're still going to ask to talk to the student. If the student wants the parent present, that's fine. But this is about teaching them to be a college student. So they are protected by that. It doesn't matter their age. What are the benefits? So you obviously can earn high school and college credits at the same time. You can get a head start on your college degrees or certificates. You experience college early to understand expectations of college life, and you save on tuition and textbook costs. I will tell you, I did this as a high school student, and I only had to go 3 years for my bachelor's degree because I had credits that transferred. So it really does work, and it really is an awesome opportunity, but you want to make sure that you're ready for it. You don't want to force yourself into something just because it's an opportunity, because it's not for everyone. So there are consequences. If you fail or withdraw too late from a college course, you may have to pay your school district back for that course. And then the grade that you earn will be on your college transcript permanently. So that record is going to follow you. So we really want to make sure that you are doing well. You'll have advisors, you'll have counselors, you'll have people there to support you and help you through that process, but we really want to make sure that you understand that this is permanent. If you fail or withdraw too often, it could impact your future financial aid. So when you graduate from high school and you go to attend a four-year institution, if you withdraw too many times, you may not get as much financial aid as you had intended. And if you perform poorly, you can be placed on CCP probation, dismissal, or academic probation or dismissal by the college. So this is going to go into the CCP probation rules. This really only applies if you're attending more than one institution at the same time. If you're just attending one institution, you will follow their probation dismissal policy. But if you're attending, say you're attending Marion Tech and OSUM at the same time, you'd follow this policy. And it says, you're placed on probation if you have less than a cumulative 2.0 GPA in CCP courses, or if you withdraw from 2 or more courses in one academic term. While on probation, you can only enroll in one college course for one semester or quarter, and you cannot enroll in the same course in which you earned the previous poor grade. And then, if you do not increase your GPA above a 2.0, you can actually be placed on dismissal. And while on dismissal, you cannot enroll in any CCP courses. But at the end of dismissal, you can request an appeal to get reinstated into the program. That's just giving a summary of that. Like I said, each high school should have a policy describing the process for appeals, but each college has their own policy. So if you're just attending one, you want to find out what that policy is and what happens if you are doing poorly in a class. So what are the expenses of CCP? I kind of told you it was free, but there are some optional expenses. So at public colleges or universities, there's no cost for tuition, books, or fees. At private colleges, they could have a small cost per credit hour. And then optional expenses could be things like parking or transportation. We don't supply your transportation or your parking through CCP. You have high school counselors to support you through your high school career. You also have college advisors. And then you have the same academic support services at the college as you would if you were a general student. So we have disability services, we have tutoring, we have a gym, we have a bookstore. All of those things you have the opportunity to use as a CCP student. If you're a student athlete, you're going to want to check with your high school athletic association, learn the requirements, and make sure that you're not swaying from that, because we do have students each year that will drop a course or fail a course, and then all of a sudden they can't play their sport. So it's something that you'll really want to track, make sure you're meeting your hours, make sure that you're passing your courses, working with your school counselor to make sure that those hours are met, because we don't want you to not be able to play a sport because something got missed. Will the courses transfer? Certain general education and technical courses will transfer from one Ohio public college to another. You can check with colleges to see that transferability. There is a website up there about transfercredit.ohio.gov. Also, another really good website to check out is transferology.com. You can create your own account, put in the courses that you're taking at one institution, see how they transfer to a different institution. So you can go in and plug in MTC, and then you can plug in Ohio State and see how those courses are going over. So what does it mean to be college ready? Like I said, there are a lot of things to think about, especially when it comes to study time, taking the class, all of the different things you need to do. We also want to consider the emotional and social transition to the college expectations. So you may be a 14-year-old student in a class with adults. You may hear adult things. That's something you're going to want to think about when registering for classes. You need to consider your time management and organizational skills. In college, your professor is not going to tell you, hey, you didn't turn in your assignment, where is it? You're probably just going to get a 0 for that, for not doing it. So you want to make sure that you are on top of things, you're advocating for yourself, you're communicating as soon as there's an issue. You don't want to wait until the semester's over and be like, well, I didn't have internet access, so I couldn't do my class. We can't help you unless we know that there's a problem. So always, always, always be an advocate for yourself. Make sure you're reaching out if there is an issue. So grades earned in the CCP course are for high school and college credit, and they're calculated both into your GPA, both places. So if you're concerned about your GPA, that's going to be another thing you want to think about when choosing to do college. And it also can be utilized in the calculation of financial aid after high school. So if you do really poorly in CCP and you decide to transfer after high school, those bad grades could follow you. So that's something that you really, really need to think about before registering for a bunch of courses with high credit hours. Don't overwhelm yourself. So what are the deadlines? April 1st is the first deadline. You have to turn in an intent to participate form to your high school office. It doesn't go to the college, it goes to your high school office. You can get that form from your school counselor. You can also get it on the state CCP website. You'll want to do that ASAP. If you are even thinking about doing CCP, I would fill out that form and turn it in. It does not bind you to do CCP, but if you decide later that you want to do it and you didn't turn the form in, you may not be able to. You do have to fill out that form every year that you participate. So even if it's your third year doing CCP, you still need to fill it out. Then you're going to want to check with your college to see what their testing requirements are. ACT, SAT. You want to look for the test deadlines. If you're going to take the AccuPlacer, you want to check and see if your school is offering it, or if you need to come to Marion Tech or Ohio State Marion to take the test. You'll want to check with each college's admission requirements, and if you're planning to do summer courses, you'll want to apply sooner, because I know at Marion Tech our summer registration is already open, so you'd want to get your application right away and get registered for those courses. For additional information, like this PowerPoint, you can go to the ohiohighered.org/CCP website. There's a lot of FAQs on there. If you have specific questions when you leave tonight, you're like, you know what, I don't know about this, go to that website. There's a lot of information on there. That's the end of the actual state presentation. So I'm just going to go over the Marion Tech requirements real quick, and then I'll hand it over to OSU. And then at the end, if you have questions, feel free to ask us. We'll stick around. So at Marion Tech, we will take scores. We'll take ACT scores, or you can take the AccuPlacer. If you haven't taken the AccuPlacer at your high school, you can come to Marion Tech and take it. You do need a photo ID to take the test. We offer reading, writing, math, and you can do that really anytime. They're open 5 days a week. Just check our website for the hours. You need to apply if you're doing fall semester. Our deadline is May 1st. So just get on and do the application. If you picked up our paperwork out on the table out there, it explains, how to apply, our timeline, and all of those steps. If you're wanting to do summer, I would apply ASAP so that we can get you registered. Other than that, our fall classes will start in August. We will send you information on how to get your textbooks and all of that good information. So I'm going to hand over to OSU.
Hi, I just want to go over some information for Ohio State Marion. We do offer all of our college credit plus classes on campus, so you have to travel to campus to do that. But as far as admission goes, the application process involves an application, and you must send us a high school transcript, and there is a high school information form. So once you submit those 3 items, we will be 1 item shy of a complete application, and that is a standardized test score. So we will require the ACT, the SAT, or if you don't have an option to do either of those, we can take the AccuPlacer in some cases. In order to take the AccuPlacer, you have to have applied and have all of the pieces of your application in. And we are just looking for college readiness standards met. So for Ohio State, we most commonly get the ACT, and we require an 18 in the English and a 22 each in reading and math. Those are the minimums. And if you look at the paper we have out there on the table, you can pick that up. It has all the requirements. For a student who can't take the ACT or ACT and wants to take the AccuPlacer, has all of the materials, and I will be reaching out to those students to come in sometime a little bit later this spring to take the AccuPlacer. You have to take it at Ohio State Marion, so you can only use our test for us. If you wanted to attend OSU Marion, you have to come and take it with me. And the score thresholds for AccuPlacer are on here as well. So the application deadline with the application and all the materials is May 1st. We can go a little bit past May 1st for the tests. If you're signed up for an April test for ACT, that'll be fine. Anything after April will be too late. So if you're doing an ACT, make sure you sign up for that no later than the April date. If you do the SAT, anything after April, I think they do it in May, that would be too late for us. So make sure it's no later than April. And then for AccuPlacer, we have a pretty quick turnaround, but I'm going to try to pull students in sometime in April to do those. So, and then the deadline's May 1st, so we'll pick up a few students after that who need to do those tests. I'm going to turn it over to Lewis. He is our academic advisor. Once you come to OSU Marion, you'll be assigned an academic advisor for College Credit Plus, and he's going to talk to you about some of your course options.
Thank you. One thing to make people aware of is this Saturday is the deadline if you want to come for the summer for the Ohio State University CCP program. So the application deadline is this Saturday. Just go to his website, fill it out. It takes about 20 minutes to fill out the application. And then yes, the website's on the sheet. Just have everything sent to OSU in Columbus. Transcripts and other things do not come to the Marion campus. Like ACT scores all go down in Columbus. They make the decision. But you can fill out the application. That needs to be on time. Test scores, we give you leeway to get those in. So if you took the February ACT test, we can use those scores for admission for the summer. Another thing I'd like people to know is, let's say you just want to come in to take math. If you meet the math requirements and you put in your application that you just want to come for math and your counselor recommends you to come for math, we can admit you just to take math classes or just to come in to take English. So if you don't have the math score, you could come in and do English and psychology if you have the English and the reading scores. So we do have some flexibility in the admission here, but we do encourage everybody to have all three of those so that you don't have to worry about being locked out of a certain course. We do have some online courses that you can take if you're interested in taking Italian language or French. We do offer those online. So there'll be other options like an intro to theater, history, rock and roll. Yeah, so those are online. We have American Sign Language in the classroom, so if you're interested in that as a foreign language. One thing I do recommend is that students have a subject area at the high school level before they take the class here. So chemistry class at high school is good preparation for the chemistry classes at Ohio State. I don't recommend just jumping right into our chemistry classes. Like the one for our pre-med students in engineering requires you to have a high school chemistry before you take the one at college. So that's something to consider. Just because you might be eligible to take the class at the college level doesn't always mean that's the best option. For students who might not yet be in high school, I really don't recommend courses until they completed 1 or 2 classes at the high school in that subject field, like the science. Foreign languages would be the exception. So if you want to come in and take Swahili, Spanish, sign language, you can do that. 7th, 8th grade, those are actually good classes to take in 7th and 8th grade. I usually recommend that students wait until 10th grade because, for one, most have to be able to get to campus. Since we typically only teach classes in the classroom, our online offerings are not as great here as they would be in Columbus. You can apply to the Columbus campus, but the admission criteria is a lot different. It's a much higher bar to pass for Columbus. We do have an orientation during the summer months in July. New students would have to go to an orientation, and we schedule at the orientation. So after a student goes to the orientation in July, that's when they would sign up for OSU classes. And I'll give you a list of classes that have room and which ones you could take at the orientation. And you could always meet with me beforehand to talk about academic goals and what you would like to take in college so that you could knock out a year or two while you're in high school. One thing that's new for Ohio State next year is we are offering iPads to College Credit Plus students on loan. So while you're a student here, you could have an iPad. Now, if you lose it, you have to buy it. So that'd be like $800 some, and parents have to sign an agreement before you pick it up, saying you're authorized to pick it up, and the parents will reimburse the university if you use it as a frisbee or you lose it. So that's new for this year. We don't have an unlimited supply, so it's kind of first come, first serve. But we'll take questions a little bit.
Yeah, and real quick, I know we're all anxious to get out of here and beat the weather, but I want to reiterate that the letters of intent that are due on April 1st, you can obtain that from your high school or from the state website. And also check to see if your school counselor is here. I know River Valley school counselors are here, so if you need to grab one of those letters, you can get one in the lobby after the presentation.
I know there's a few students who maybe homeschool in the room. The thing is, the application to apply for state credit is before the deadlines to apply for fall. So if you are thinking of being College Credit Plus for either of our schools, you really want to apply now so that you get your admittance letter to our College Credit Plus programs early so you can meet the state deadline to apply for funding for next school year. Because if you miss that funding deadline, you can still come, you just would have to pay yourself. So, and most of us probably don't want to do that.
And I also will say about homeschool students, you, as a homeschool student, you are responsible for your books for CCP. So that is a little bit different than a public high school. So just something to be aware of if you are homeschool, get onto that and create your saved account, do your application through the state, and then you'll know how much funding you get. I did forget to mention that Marion Tech, we do offer classes here on campus. We have them online, and we are in a lot of the high schools. So depending on what high school you're attending, you want to check with your school counselor about the courses there. We do have a new cadaver lab here at Marion Tech, so if you were interested in taking A&P, I definitely would suggest that you're a junior or senior and you have to have taken high school biology and chemistry first. But if you've taken that and done well, you could take A&P and you could actually be in with our cadaver lab. So for those of you that don't know what a cadaver is, that's a human body that we use for our A&P lab. So you actually get to look at the different parts. Maybe you're interested in the medical field and you're not really sure how you handle that. That's a great way to explore and see. We do have students sometimes that are like, oh, nope, never mind, that's not what I want to do. But it is a really neat experience just to see that side of things. So thank you all for coming tonight. If your school counselor's here, make sure you check in with them.
Any questions?
Any questions? Any general questions?
People
We
usually
have a
have
question. Question back here. Okay, we'll be up here if you have
We'll be up here for questions.